Thank you. If we could please stand, face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Again, I'd like to welcome everyone. We do have on attendance in the audience tonight, and we thank you for being here with us for our budget processing meeting. I apologize. We're going to do the roll call by the town manager.
Okay, Mayor, thank you very much, and I'm just going to start at the end. We're not using our system this evening, so I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way, and I'm going to start with Councilwoman Smith.
Present.
Councilwoman Robertson.
Present.
Mayor Hines.
Present.
Councilman Lloyd.
Present.
And Councilwoman Hawkins.
Present.
Okay, Mayor, all who are present are present.
Okay, Councilwoman Harrell is on her way.
Okay.
On her way. Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Okay. I have a motion made by Councilwoman Robinson, second by Councilman Moy. Any discussion? If none, I'll vote by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Next we have down is break for dinner, but what we're going to do, I spoke with the council, what we're going to do is we're going to have sort of like a working meeting. We're going to get up and take a pause for the calls to go out to get something, and then we'll come back to up here, and then the staff will work through talking with us as they're also eating theirs, and whoever's first up, if they will come on, and then we'll work right through it. So we're going to take a second and go get our food and come back up, okay? All right? All right?
Move to break.
Move to break. All right?
Second.
Second, okay. Have to recess for second. Motion made by Councilman Moore, second by Councilwoman Smith. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. We're not going to take.
Yes, we're streaming. We are.
like to call the budget meeting back in the process. But before we start our budget meeting, I forgot to do something when we first came in, and that is if we can take a quick moment of silence for my good friend Mayor Lyles of Charlotte and her police department and all the police officers that and their families that lost their life in the line of duty. And this was very tragic. And Mayor Lyles is a friend of mine, so we all take a second, just a moment of silence, please. And I thank y'all for that. I mean, every day we got people that risk their lives, and, so we appreciate what they do. So if we could get Miss Manning to step to the podium, please.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. Tonight, we're going to have our budget progress meeting and kind of go over our revenues for the next fiscal year. We're starting with our general fund revenues. The draft budget is in the works and anticipate a draft budget being delivered on our first budget workshop, which will be on May 21st. And the budget calendar for the next fiscal year has already been approved. Currently, the tax rate is 47.5 cents. The town's most recent valuation was completed in January 2024. Based on the county's valuation so far, we do anticipate receiving another one anytime. The revenue neutral tax rate would be 0.3295. The revenue neutral tax rate is the rate that would produce the equivalent levy as last fiscal year adjusted for growth. I'll just hit that bullet point for now, but we'll go into more detail about that at the end of the sheet. Property tax budget will be calculated with a 98% collection rate. This is our normal collection rate. The present year valuation is $882,785,000, with the new valuation right now being $1,303,451,000. For sales and use tax, that will continue to be difficult to budget for. We've had tremendous growth over the last few years, mostly driven by stimulus funding, rising inflation, and changes in consumer spending. Those revenues do run on a 3-month lag. Economists are suggesting that this post-pandemic boom in sales tax revenue will be coming to an end, and they're predicting sales tax to begin showing more resemblance to prior pandemic years, with some growth still due to rising population and inflation as well. We're recommending that the town use a 1.5% growth rate, which is a little bit more conservative than the league's 2.2%. And this will generate an estimated increase in the amount of $78,000 over the original budget revenue for the new fiscal year. Power bill estimates are expected to increase from the fiscal year 23-24. And those revenues are expected to be approximately $345,000, and this is an increase in the amount of $38,000. Utility franchise tax revenues are expected to remain consistent from last fiscal year. Those revenues are expected to be approximately $379,000, and this is a slight increase from the prior year of about $12,000. For building inspections, that department continues to be busy, and based on conversations with our planning department, developers are moving forward at a steady pace. This will allow for revenues to remain constant, and we're estimating those revenues to be around $190,000. Interest income will remain steady as interest rates were compared to the previous years. The Fed has stated that interest rates will hold steady for most of 2024 with a possible decline. Interest income is expected to be around $613,000 for the general fund. For all other general fund revenues, we're expected to be slightly higher for the new fiscal year. For the enterprise funds, electric revenues are expected to increase slightly with an estimated growth rate of about 4%, showing electric sales increase in the amount of $294,000 and approximately $7,025,000 for that total. Water revenues are expected to increase slightly with an estimated growth rate of 1%, showing water sales to be approximately $1.5 million. Sewer revenues are expected to increase slightly with an estimated growth rate of 1% as well, showing sewer sales to be approximately $2.3 million. Winterville, who is a member of the Contentnia Metropolitan Sewer District, will see a slight decrease in the amount of $58,000. The current year budget is $1.4 million and would be decreased to $1,487,000 and decreased to $1,429,000.
Jessica, could I say something about that? Just a reminder that what we pay to the Contentnia Metropolitan Sewerage District is based on flow. So how it's calculated is that the district takes the previous 12 months worth of flow, and then they determine how much of that flow, what percentage belongs to Winterville, then belongs to Aiken, then belongs to Grifton, and then there's a very small portion that belongs to the district. They're direct customers of the district. So you'll see this year we have a slight decrease. That's due to the amount of flow. We had a drier year than the year before. So again, if next year is a wet year, you'll see those numbers go up. So that's going to be a constant source of change based on weather and flow. I just wanted to remind everybody of that as we move forward.
Stormwater sales growth is expected to be flat at the same 1%, with revenues increasing from $525,000 to around $530,000. And then a few notable items. First National Insurance, which was formerly Carolina Benefits, is anticipating that the renewal will only have a 1.5% increase in health insurance premiums and no increase in dental insurance premiums.
That's excellent. So you should be really happy for that.
We do have 2 loans in the general fund that will be coming off the books in the 24-25 fiscal year. One of those loans is in the amount of $105,000 for the E1 fire truck, and the other loan in the amount of $8,942 for a Nissan Pathfinder. We have new debt service payments scheduled for this fiscal year in the general fund. That total amount is $96,000, and that's for a knuckle boom truck, commercial lawnmower, pickup truck, and 2 police cars. The sewer fund will also have a new debt service payment in the amount of $36,000 for a sewer jetter trailer and a 6-inch bypass pump. The sewer fund also will begin to pay back the water fund this fiscal year in the amount of $52,000, and that will be spread out over 5 years. Let's see, the sewer fund operated at a $260,000 deficit last year, and we borrowed funds from the water fund to cover annual operating expenditures. We also have a new debt service in the amount of $88,300, and we will need to increase the minimum monthly bill by $7 per month to cover the deficit and the debt service payments. That's all the items that I have listed. If anybody has any questions or.
Any council member have any question, for Ms. Manning? Okay, Ms. Manning, thank you.
Anthony, why don't you come on up? And then Jessica, stand by. I think, as you've got these numbers, I know that sometimes it has to sink in a little bit.
Yes.
But I think as you can see, we've got some revenue decisions we need to make. And there are some pretty significant ones. So Jessica and Anthony and myself, but I have to give all the work credit to Jessica and Anthony. They've been working on the revenue neutral rates for taxes and also a recommendation that we all collectively agree we would like to put forward to council on a tax rate. And then we've got some other revenues we definitely want to discuss specifically with council. So with that, I'll turn it over to the two money folks.
So I'll just kind of cut right to the chase. Last year, we essentially ran at a deficit in the general fund and borrowed $650,000 from the local. We kind of went through this early on in the budget process and presentation. We also used $600,000 of our retained earnings or savings. So that was $1.2 million to cover operating spend. And then on top of that, we had capital outlay projects. So we borrowed another $510,000 to make our budget work last year, so we could get the equipment we needed. So if you put all three of those together, you get $1.7 million that the fund was out of budget, out of balance is probably a better term. And so what we were looking is, as we were moving into this new tax reevaluation process, how that was going to affect us, what that was going to look like, and how much of that deficit did we use the reval to help compensate for, how we were going to navigate the balance between all of those variables. And so looking at and talking with Terry and Jessica, we felt like it was important to try to recoup a lot of those losses. So the tax revenue neutral number is 32.95 cents. Currently we're at 47.5 cents. So that's right at a 14-cent reduction. And what we're looking at is possibly not keeping it at the 47.5 cents, because that would be a pretty good burden on the citizens. But dropping it back down to, like, say 40 cents, so that we could cut the tax rate by at least 7 cents, essentially cut into that deficit as well at the same time by bringing in more revenue to cover that losses that we had in the past.
So I'm kind of asked a question. So projectively, what would that look like, forecasting? What would that look like if we do 40, and you said 40?
Yes. Talking about revenue.
Revenue-wise.
Talking about the cost to a resident, what that would look like on a, say, the average house of
Right,
$250,000.
right.
What, I'm sorry, the average house is what, 200?
Say if we did an average home of 250,000,
Okay.
because we know we got some less and
Right.
way higher. So net difference is $176 a year.
Addition, it'll be that $176 a year. Do everybody understand that? Anybody have any questions on that?
Essentially, that's going to give us right at a regard, like you said, we took out of over 600,000 out of savings last year, just to balance the operating budget. it still wouldn't make us whole, by any stretch. I mean, take that 176 and divide it up over 12 months, because that's what the citizens, I would say 90% of the citizens' taxes are escrow.
Right.
So, it's gonna get passed on to the mortgage company. I think I run some quick numbers, and it's like $18.
I think it's actually 14.67 a month, if my math is right.
14, so $15 a month.
1466. $14.60.
And if you don't have an escrow, you can pay anytime you want to. You don't have to wait till the last month. You can make payments with our office here. It doesn't have to be, all at one time. Most people wait who aren't on the escrow because they want, they don't have to. They want to manage their cash a little bit better. So it would be about $15 more a month.
I think it's important to put forth that we understand council's desire to hold all costs as low as possible, as well as don't charge customers any more than we absolutely have to. But those of you that have been on the board a long time, and those of you that have just joined us are hearing it for the first time, but I think council would say that we've said every year, there's gonna come a point where we have to really make some changes in order to be able to pay our bills, continue to offer the service we're offering, and try to expand our workforce so they can be able to offer the services that we currently provide. And the only way to do that is to increase our revenue. So we don't bring this recommendation forward lightly. We've talked a lot about it. We've thought a lot about it. I imagine we've prayed about it. But I think that it's a fair recommendation. I think that when you look at $15 a month, if you try to look at it that way, that is manageable for most households. And we'd welcome any questions or comments that folks have about that.
Councilwoman Smith.
So with the proposed 40 cent, what will they, we said we had a $1.7 million deficit for last year. And if we were to go with the proposed 40 cent tax rate, would that,
We would still be losing. We still have to borrow some money from the electric company. It would not be as
Doors.
much.
okay. so
Well,
we're
and we're not actually borrowing it. We're just
Well, yes, you're right.
yeah,
That
just to
one's
make,
not a borrow.
just to make sure that,
Robbing Peter and paying Paul.
well,
We did
And then we
borrow
paid
the
Peter.
500, we borrowed the 510,000 for capital outlay, but as far as the actual, 650,000, that was just straight for operating expenses.
and we've been doing that as long as I've been here, not at that amount, but I think we've talked at a staff level about it's reasonable to transfer some money from electric to general fund. Maybe we should look at a policy which talks about an amount not to exceed X percent of either retained earnings or operating expenditures. Well, actually, retained earnings would need to be at a certain level before we could transfer that amount. So the idea is not to completely supplant the transfer with these monies, to lower it, but not completely do away with it.
Ms. Smart. Councilwoman Robinson.
Probably supposed to know this, but I don't right now. I'm concerned that the sewer fund, we're talking about raising it $7 a month to cover it. Is it an enterprise fund? The sewer fund is an enterprise fund.
Kind of shifting gears, and we're talking about this. Sewer fund, start getting to these, then maybe we can start getting these projects and they're not going to spend money to get our rates at a place that makes it self-sustaining. We're having to borrow money from the sewer fund. It's going to make that process, and enterprise funds, like the general fund, they look at that pretty heavily on the
They've been telling us that our rates are too low. So it's something that we know, and we also understand it's a challenge, but Anthony makes a very good point. We're gonna have trouble potentially borrowing money if our rate structure can't get to a certain stage.
We'll have to commit to, the, important takeaways are, nobody wants to pay a higher rate on anything, but, borrowing, $260,000 just to cover operating expenses, that didn't include any capital purchases. We had 2 capital purchases last year. They were financed externally, bank loan. So, put all that together, and that fund is really aiding, fund balance there. Talk about using fund balance for items not as healthy as others. Some of the things we need to do to fix our system, this isn't gonna get us there, really. This is just gonna get us where we should be. This isn't gonna give us extra money to go fix problems. This is just gonna get us caught up and cover the gap from last year.
Mr. Boyd, do you have a question? Councilman Ward?
Yes. Anthony, Mr. Bauer, I would like for you to go back over it one more time for me about you say the current tax rate is a .475, is that correct? And then the revenue neutral tax rate will be at a .3295. I mean,
Just roughly 33 cents.
okay, so it's, and then now we're speaking of increasing, what are we planning on increasing?
So what we're recommending is like 14 cents difference between the 47.5 cent now. 14. So what we're recommending is a 40-cent tax rate, so we can reduce the tax rate down to 40 cents. Now that is higher than the revenue neutral rate, but that recommendation is based on the fact that we need to cover the deficits that we have left.
We are required to report what the revenue neutral rate is to council. So you have information to compare. And then our job is to then bring forward a recommendation to do the things just like Anthony and Jessica are proposing. And again, we don't take it lightly, but it's definitely something we need to consider.
So the part we're going to, I just want to make sure I understand. The part that we're going to increase, that you recommend to increase is the current tax rate, is that correct?
Actually, be decreased.
It would decrease that to 4%. A point.
40 cent. 40 cent on $100 valuation.
Okay, so it would decrease from a 0.475 to a 0.400.
Correct.
Okay, and then the increase would be on your natural tax rate, is that correct? It will move from a 0.3295 to what? 0.40. So, equate to, if you was going to increase your tax rate without bothering with your neutral tax rate, I mean, what would it be? Would it be like a 8%, 4%, a 0.4, would it be a 0.8 cent? I'm just asking a question. Well, if you say the current tax rate is a 0.475. Now, but it will go down since we're going to bring the other one up. Is that correct?
It stays where it is until council votes to do something different.
Now, well, I'm talking about his recommendation.
Oh,
the recommendation.
Recommendation would bring it down to 7.5. Current rate. Bring it up, the revenue neutral.
Okay,
But nothing automatically happens. We report to you what revenue neutral is, but that's a number that we're reporting to you, but there's nothing in the system that automatically reduces it to revenue neutral.
okay, my question then also is, what percentage is that? Do we have a percentage?
We don't normally speak when it comes to taxes, we don't normally use percentages.
I'm talking about the increase.
So 1 cent on the, probably not really answering your question, but 1 cent on the new tax rate is gonna come out $127,000.
Give it to how much? 170?
127 per 1 cent, for every 1 cent on the tax rate.
Okay. All right.
Still gonna be a deficit.
Yes.
Still gonna be a deficit.
Yeah, this would bring in $894,166 additional revenue above what we did this year.
Is that at 100%?
That's at 98%.
Okay.
180%. That's what's figured, that our collection, right, our collection rate is at 98%. That is excellent when you
Yes.
compare it to everybody else.
Yes, we're
You
doing
know,
it.
we're doing
Great
an
job.
excellent job of collecting.
Basically, that would keep us from using savings and roughly would cut our transfer from the electric fund from 650,000 probably to 350,000.
So basically cutting it in half, that's what we're trying to do.
Well,
What we're trying-
thereabouts,
right, thereabouts,
yes.
yeah, right. Not necessarily in half, but at least it's knocking a big dent in it.
but keep in mind now, that's not gonna cover hiring additional people. You know, some of the things that we've talked about we need to do.
Right.
Correct. It's, you know, a lot of the projects we've talked about, it'll just try to get us closer to being breaking even, so to speak.
Well, also too, it helps us when we do apply, that they see that we are making every effort, correct?
Yeah, when you have,
Yeah.
depending on the grant and
Grants.
what funding agency, I mean, they look at your rates and they look at your tax rates as well as your utility rates, depending on what process you're going through. And if they see that they're really low, they simply don't, give you credit for those because they, simply don't give you credit for those because they're saying you're not doing your part to bring in the revenue on your own. So you go out looking for low interest loans, or you go out looking for grant money, and they're saying, well, you're not really doing your part because your rates aren't quite high enough. And they studied all these. They have metrics that they use. And say you should be doing things. There is a risk of having low rate. While low rates are good for citizens, you can't do the things you need to do to operate and apply for grants because of it. It starts to become prohibitive. They simply want you to have a rate that is in an average range with some other municipalities before these things are not detrimental to us getting
And we are seeing growth. I mean, you all are seeing growth. We're seeing growth, and that's helping from a financial standpoint. But it's not enough. So just think about if we hadn't grown, what the population would have to pay, because it would be a smaller group of people paying into it. So growth is good. It costs us money to some extent, but we have to have that in order to spread out the number of people that are paying into the system.
Well, in the bulletin, I think what down here, you talk about the growth, talk about what it says, a building and inspection department. Allow revenue to remain consistent, estimated, 190? So that's,
So they're going a long way towards being one of the few departments that can pay for itself.
Right. It's
Um,
self-sustaining.
Every department doesn't have that ability, obviously, but, what
The
that,
interesting part about that is that money really doesn't go back to the general fund because state law requires you, whatever money you raise on inspections has to go back to the inspections department.
Oh.
So we have to have a break even there or a loss. And so while we might have a growth there, it's actually not helping the general fund.
Not helping, okay. I appreciate that explanation.
Can
Mr.
I just restate what I'm processing, because this is new to me, and just encompassing what I'm, so in layman's terms, what I hear is that the current tax rate, .475, will be reduced to .40 or .40, which would decrease taxes for resident citizens, homeowners, or if I'm, okay, yeah, so,
It won't, because of the revaluation, what they're actually gonna pay, the rate will decrease, but what they actually pay will go up about $15 a month.
got you, okay. So, the rate will decrease, but then they'll pay $14.66 as an increase,
that's an average.
as an average.
So depending on the value of your home, if it's over the
Got you.
older home that maybe hadn't been kept up, it may not be that much, or it's more expensive.
And this will help to sustain the electric funds, or
It's a general fund.
It's
So
just the general
police, fire,
funds.
rescue, our admin, streets, public works, recreation, all those are general fund activities. And the enterprise funds are electric, water, sewer.
so the increase of $14.66 will help to sustain the general funds. But there won't be that much surplus,
This is
just
not-
maintain and sustain.
It's actually
Council, I'm sorry, Councilwoman Harkin, and remember, he said that that was based on the 250. You remember he said, based on the average of a home at 250, because like he said, it may be if your house, just using, if your house is like 90 or 100,000, it's going to, instead of the 14, it's probably going to be lower. It'll be lower, subject to be lower. Yeah. But he was just basing it on 250.
Okay.
Okay. Not everybody may not be paying the 1466, that's correct?
That's
Right.
Probably nobody actually will pay that number.
Right.
You know, but,
Okay.
you know, because some chances of somebody's house actually being, be something, 254, 300,000.
If we keep the current tax rate, I'm sorry,
Go ahead. I didn't,
anybody?
I won't
You
talk.
recognize?
I've already spoken, so go.
go ahead, Councilman.
If we keep the current tax rate at a .475, then what will on that same,
I had it printed out on another sheet.
These two folks have crunched a lot of numbers in the last
well,
few days, so it may take a minute to put the hands on them. Just while they're looking, we received, I believe, 3 updates on the valuation of all the property from the county's tax assessor's office. We still had a pretty significant amount of appeals pending. So we do anticipate, as I think Jessica has shared, any time to get that, what we anticipate will be the last update. So there may be a slight adjustment to some of the total numbers, but for the most part, I think we've got predominantly what we need to at least have the conversation.
So that would be roughly, $1.8 million. Where we're at.
That, and I'll be able to ask you one more question on that is, and that would equate to about approximately how much for the same value home? So we was speaking about $14 a month.
Yeah, I would say it would roughly
About
double.
$254
It would
a year.
roughly double.
It would roughly double.
We're recommending about half.
So basically
So it
$30
was
a
roughly
month,
$30.
$30 a month.
thereabouts.
So we saving,
So by you, go ahead. So
yeah,
you-
I'm saying, yeah.
Yes, by you doing it with the revenue neutral tax rate, bringing that up and lowering your current tax
That gets a little
rate.
confusing.
It is kind of confusing,
So
but
we're reporting to you the revenue neutral tax rate. So you'll know what the tax rate would be in order to bring in theoretically the same amount of money that we brought in this past year with 47.5
Plus-
cents
Plus growth.
plus growth. Thank you. Give me straight.
what you brought in.
That's a comparative number. But our tax rate is still, I'm gonna say 47.5 cents rather than the .475, just because it's easier to say. So 47.5 cents. So basically, we're asking council to lower the current rate to 40 cents. So I'm not including the revenue neutral rate. We've reported that to you and certainly want to answer any questions you will have about that. But theoretically, we're asking you to reduce the tax rate in Winterville for the 24-25 fiscal year from 47.5 cents to 40 cents per $100 valuation. That make it any simpler? The request?
I understand that with the reduction, there will be an increase, right? So with the reduction, there will be overall an increase. I'm understanding it now, but I don't know if others will understand, okay, we got a drop in the rate, but we're getting an increase. But I understand why, because it's going to stabilize the general fund, right, without a surplus. I understand, but I don't know how that can be conveyed, and it might be hard, but
If I could, if you could take the 47.5 cents and drop it to 40, then what the citizens will pay is less. The increase only comes into play using the revenue neutral number. So we've reported that, but we're not using that in our recommendations. So what I would suggest you say to citizens is that we're asking you all to drop the rate from 47.5 to 40, and therefore what they would have paid at 47.5 cents, they'll only pay at 40 if you all approve it, therefore they'll be paying less.
okay, I totally understand.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Much more clearer, thank you.
Now, if you bring in the revenue neutral, it gets complicated.
Right.
There's nothing that, we have to state the revenue neutral
Right.
number. But there's nothing that requires, and many times in the past, in my experience, we've always kept, now, we didn't have this big of a margin, but we've always kept the tax rate the same.
That's right.
Yes.
There's been very few times, I won't say always, but there's been very few times in my career that we've actually made changes. It was a reverse small.
And the last revow, we kept it at the same.
Same, right.
Okay.
That's why it was simple.
And it's the same, it's the same formula, but the problem here is the valuations increased so much, that margin, as Anthony says, is a lot larger.
Councilwoman Robinson?
sorry.
I think you had a question.
Yeah, when I asked that question about it being an enterprise fund, I did not look at my paper and see that it was an enterprise fund. But, I just have a problem with us lowering the tax rate for our citizens and then raising our sewer rates. You know, I wish there was a way that we could do it, even if, you know, I mean, even if we lowered the tax rate not as much, you know, but I know that is that possible? And not have to raise the sewer rates? Because you're talking about sewer rates going up $7. That's about $84 a year per household. And then you're talking about, you know, you lowered the tax rate, but you got to lower the tax rate over here, but you're taking it right back in your monthly cost for sewer. So it's like, you know, I know Councilwoman Hawkins was saying bounce this thing out. Is there any way we could kind of
So,
help the citizens to feel that tax rate cut?
for example, I mean, if we go get financing, the local government commission regulates what we do. So they have certain standards, rules, and regulations. And many times they want to know, you subsidize your enterprise funds with your general fund. If you have, it's going to be a problem for you.
That's a no-no.
And so everything I've always, in school of government teaches the same thing. Each fund should be mutually independent. Each fund should be self-sustaining. So they shouldn't, from a fiscal standpoint, shouldn't rely on another fund to keep efficient. And that's not to say, you know, rates, the way rates are changed, shouldn't try to help balance things out. But if it's an internal or a transfer from fund to fund or a rate structure change, I mean, I hear what you're saying. I think one thing, you know, it's very difficult to do is change rates. And so what we tend to find ourselves as a governing board and staff is that, you know, we try to keep them stable, keep them stable, keep them stable. And then what you run the risk of is getting to a point where it's this gigantic step that's very painful instead of incremental changes that are easier and more palatable for citizens and the rate payers. You know, it's easier to pay a 2% increase than a 20% increase. Try to catch up and improve. So, you know, incremental changes, you know, are definitely easier, more palatable, less basic. Never an easy sell to raise rates, right? It's not something we're going to do, but we're running the risk of not really being able to manage, especially at an operating level. And it's not really it's not a situation of where the county's managing funds. It's a situation where everything around us has changed dramatically. We just went out for bid on a sewer project. It was supposed to be slightly over $4 million, and it came in at 7.6. So, I mean, that's just one project. Everything we buy day to day is just going through the roof. So don't change if we don't move with the times. We're going to fall behind. And so we don't take lightly what we recommend. We're very cognizant. We're very conservative when it comes to trying to maneuver these things from a fiscal standpoint. Very, what we present is a genuine rate. Like is reasonable in all respects.
You have a question?
Yes, so this is another comment that I have. This processing, what is going to take place? One, my question is, if we vote for this, is there a prospective time when this $7 increase will take effect? I know on our last town council meeting, there was a vote that went through for a $3.50 increase for the GFL. So collectively, that would be $10.50 overall increase. And I know that the town is growing by leaps and bounds, which is a wonderful, wonderful place to be. But how do will the $7 go into effect at one time and then $3.50? I guess we have to vote, but how does that look? How do we relay that
Sure.
to
It would be
the
recommended
citizens?
to roll out with our adoption of our annual budget, which will take effect in July.
So both will take effect in July.
The tax valuation or tax rate determination will be submitted back to the county. Those bills are normally filled out in August. Get discounted, paid in September.
Right.
We don't do that anymore. We have till January 5th to make the tax payment. It is submitted to the mortgage company. We have big files that come through and everybody's escrow. We'll get adjusted by their mortgage company. So they would probably see it. There would be a lag because the mortgage company takes a little while to get their stuff readjusted. But that's on them. I mean, they have to pay it. That's always probably doing.
Well, the three letters I don't want to hear is LGC. So whatever you do, keep them three letters.
Unless we're working good with them,
Right.
asking them for
Yeah,
some money.
yeah, asking for some money, but those are the three letters I don't want to hear. And any council members, nobody want to hear them LGC.
What-
So,
Mayor, if I could say, the town is in great financial position, but we want to stay there.
right.
So I don't want that to be, I don't want what we're saying tonight to give you the impression that we're not in good financial shape. We are, but in order to stay there, we've got to make these changes. I think that's where we're coming
Yeah. Oh,
I just
got some. Oh.
wanted to bring like on the sewer funds, since we're kind of mixing it.
Yes.
You know, our fund balance in the sewer fund is only $764,000. Tornado where they hit a pump station.
Good cover.
Our bid, the project we just bid out, has 2 pump station refills and 4 panels. So basically $2 million per station. So our $764,000 is the number. And then on top of that, if we were to get reimbursed from FEMA, it could take up to 5 years.
That's if we get reimbursed, you know,
Has to be declared, so if it's hit by a tornado.
That's right.
It may not be declared. That happens in a hurricane, it's more likely. Not always.
Councilwoman Smith, yeah.
And I'm was thinking, I mean, I realize, as it's been brought up, you know, we have shortages in several areas, and it's been proposed to do the 40%, excuse me, not 40 cent, decrease to 40 cents. That's a proposal, I get it. I hear the concerns. We had the little $3.50 increase, and then we're proposing $7, what I would caution, you know, reevals are done every 4 years. If we go down an excessive amount, if property value should lower, then we're going to be bringing in even less. That may or may not occur, but we have to realize that. Then we're going to look at having to make an increase in taxes to recoup that. It's a very delicate thing, and I get it. And I hope that our citizens understand that we have a lot of needs. We have a lot of needs. We're looking at a $7 million proposal or contract for sewage work. We have roads that need to be taken care of. Railroad Street is sinking in several places down here. So as difficult as it may seem, and I know $3.50 here and $7 may seem like a big thing, overall, our citizens want a multi-purpose center. We've got to spend a lot of money, and so we may need to make these decisions now.
And if y'all remember, I said before, this year, when we was talking, I said we're gonna have to make some tough decisions. There's gonna be some decisions that none of us really want to make, but to stay within, make the town run efficiently, those are the decisions that we're gonna have to make, you know, and then, but, I appreciate what you said earlier, explaining it to, your base, or, you know, your constituents, but, you know, I think they're doing a good enough job trying to explain it to us, how to explain it to them. So, you know, but again, these are decisions that we are tasked to do. I mean, you know, and in order to keep the town in good financial, you know.
We also understand it's very confusing when you're trying to peel back the layers and see exactly, what does this mean? What does this mean? And it can
But we do have some projects that we need, that we all want to see done. But as we all know, it takes capital. And along with capital, we are going to be searching for grants. But when you fill out these applications, and Anthony said, they're going to want to know, where are your rates at? Are you trying to do your part? You asking us for money, or are you trying to do your part? You know, so that's where we're at. So there's some decisions, something to think about. Do y'all asking now, or do you want us to mull over this? You know, I'm
So I understand the need to process, because I'm a processor. So this was the one revenue meeting that we had scheduled. Our next two budget workshops will be on a draft budget. I am not desirous to add any more meetings to the schedule here. However, we will need from council to have an idea of where we're going in the revenues. Tried to reconvene night after tomorrow, Wednesday night. Is everybody available to do that, and is that too soon? My concern is, as we get a little bit closer to the 21st, schedules get a little bit crazy, and I think folks here are here, there, and everywhere. So I'm just throwing out conversation. I'm open to what council and Jessica and Anthony.
My question then is, in order this to be voted upon altogether at the end, because this right here will give me a chance to really look at these numbers a little bit more.
Can you say at the end? I'm sorry, at the end of what?
I think we have another meeting on the 21st.
Yes, but I have to give you a draft budget, and I can't do that if I don't know what revenues
She
I
needs-
have
Okay,
to
I see
work
what
with.
you're
You
saying.
see-
She needs to know
I see
where
what you're
numbers to plug into.
So I
in
can
order
tell
to
you
get-
whether we're
Right.
in a deficit, whether we're balanced in all the funds, so, we can just put some more work on you folks during the budget workshops. And put some stress on staff in the day between the two workshops, but,
Benefit, if I may, the benefit to staff to knowing, the sooner we know, we know when we start to have to make cuts, or when we have to make decisions.
that's right.
Capital purchase or operating expenses, we know what we're working with. Decisions not made, or the later decisions made, the last time you have to, before it comes back to you.
Now, we have to have the budget approved by June 30th. We tentatively have the, public hearing scheduled for Donald, help me.
Well, you're looking for the public hearing. Everybody look at the calendars for Wednesday. And is Wednesday, I'm just asking.
I was going to, I know Town Manager Parker, you have the agenda review meeting on the 9th, is that Thursday?
Yes, ma'am.
So you're talking about this Wednesday and then the Town Manager?
Oh,
I was
know
just
that's a lot.
thinking maybe
Right.
Thursday, and, you know,
That-
since
That-
we may not be able to get here by 4, but maybe afterwards.
Okay.
6 or, you know.
Thursday is any,
happens.
I'm good for Thursday.
Okay. You work every
I mean,
night?
so, I mean, but I
Okay.
have a commitment to this, and I will make whatever work, whatever works best for the council.
I know it's tough, and like I said, I think we realize it would be slightly unfair to ask you to vote tonight when I think I see on some faces, correct me if I'm wrong, that processing is necessary. So, that fair?
What,
I just, processing is necessary, but ultimately, we're going to have to make the decision,
Correct.
like Mayor Hines said. I just, for clarity, when we're talking about a budget and we talk about the multi-purpose center, it was my understanding that those monies were already set aside for, or are we having to measure those in? That's just with my considerations. Are those taken care of already? They
Yes.
were not.
There are no money set aside currently. We bought the land,
Got the land,
so we got the land.
but the other
But everything
components.
else, now the plans that I'm looking at Diane, the plans that she has put an ad out for people to come back, and that would be the comprehensive plan and the site-specific master plan. That's budgeted in this year's budget, but everything past that has not been budgeted.
Okay. Thank you.
So, this question, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Robinson.
So
Councilwoman
if
Robinson.
we were to give staff direction as to prepare a budget with, the tax rate that you recommend, which is a little bit above revenue, would that include any funds for the multi-purpose building?
It would, I could certainly try to make that happen. The challenge is gonna be, just seeing what the requests are from the departments, but certainly we could try to put some funds aside. Now, I do know when the time comes that we're gonna be trying to apply for a part of grant, and any other grants that apply, that didn't mean we'll get them, but we're certainly gonna try. But we can certainly try to put aside some monies, but it won't be a vast amount of money.
I'd like to know, as far as we're concerned, do we want to consider that 40 what?
40 cent on the
40
dollar?
40 even.
Uh-huh.
I just want to be right. Do we want staff to consider that and make a budget based on that? I think that would put us ahead of the race. If we were to direct staff to do a budget based on those revenues. Is that what you all, what you
Well,
all-
we need some direction. We can put a budget together, just, if y'all work with me a bit. The idea was to have all the changes done and hopefully a draft budget that's balanced by June 3rd, which is the public hearing. But now is a good time, if we need to push it further into June, to do that, so that if the 21st we come with the budget prepared with our recommendations, and for some reason it doesn't work well, or we end
got
up with something
time.
different,
Right.
staff's gonna have to go back, and they're gonna have to adjust budgets and that kind of thing. We'll have a second workshop, but there'll be one day to do it between the first workshop and the second workshop. My suggestion would then be to maybe try to move it a little bit into June. Don, you're giving me that look.
We need to keep in mind when that public hearing needs to be advertised. And I do believe in my counting, it would need to be to the newspaper on the day between those two meetings. I'll try to look here on my reminder right now and see if I can get that.
I think I'm just trying to be realistic with the time we need, collectively to.
I think hasn't it always been like this? We have a public hearing one week, and then we have our meeting the next week
Yes.
to
Right. And
adopt the budget.
correct.
But that's not the budget that we're talking about now. I just would like to know, council members, how you feel about that if we were to direct staff to prepare a budget based on the 40
40%.
cent revenue.
What, can I go a little further with that? The
Uh-huh.
40 cent tax rate, the increase in sewer as well?
Might as well, we got to do
So
it.
you can see what it looks like.
Looks like,
And then
right.
we'll, I mean, it's a draft, so
Right.
we're bringing it to you in a draft form.
Mm.
And then we'll see where we,
Councilman Hawkins.
I would like to entertain the thought of the draft, if it is including funds or monies for the multipurpose center. That's something that I do not want to be left out, or because, again, when thinking back, this has been 18 years in the process. And if the budget includes that, or steps towards that, I don't mind at all. But, yeah, with that being said,
If I could, we have historically, in some instances, set up capital reserve funds, so you can start building. So, and this is a perfect scenario where, we know we got a multi-million-dollar building that's gonna need to be built. How much do we wanna put down? If we could save some money up, start contributing, set money aside. One good thing about saving money right now is it actually brings in some
or change.
interest income. We went many, many years where we were better off to actually, spend the money because, prices at today are cheaper than they're gonna be tomorrow. So, but now we're actually, if we do whatever money we set aside, we can, take the interest on that money and then, use it as an investment. And then next year, truth be told, you're several years out on the multi-purpose center. This process is so long, so arduous. By the time you have all your, charrettes and get the citizen involvement, feedback to you, consultants, things of that nature, the whole process is very long. So it could be 2 to 3 years where you're saving up money in the process and getting the ball, advanced. And that, when it's time to actually construct, you have something fall back.
I totally agree, and I think capital reserve fund is the way to go. And if council, and I'm hearing it, we're hearing it, that's what you want, is you want to see a set aside for multipurpose facility. We'll make that happen now. I can't speak to amount currently because I just don't know what the whole sum total picture looks like. But yes.
Well, then, Councilwoman Hawkins, do you want to make a motion to that effect? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. What you
You were
just
asking
said,
about
do you want to make a motion to that effect, including the multipurpose reserve, capital reserve? Included, but let me ask Johnny something first, but keep that in mind as far as a motion.
I just got a question. Proposal that we have is just one, really. I mean, why we only have just one? I mean, it's like, you can stay where you're at, or you can accept this one.
Yeah, ultimately, I mean, you have the whole kit and caboodle is in front of you. You can make any decision that you feel is right. You can leave it like it is at the 47.5 and take the 1.8 million and apply that to projects. You could take the proposal that we recommended, which was trying to reduce the contribution from the electric fund at the same time reducing our use of savings, or the revenue neutral number. That whole range is at the council's disposal, in full disclosure. However, our recommendation is to try to find that middle ground. And that's why we came to you with just the
Well, if I could also say, it certainly wasn't to present it, it's either this or nothing. But I think the thing is, we were trying to be reasonable and come forward with something that we felt like was fair and equitable, but not too much. When I say not too much, not keeping it at the same 47.5 cents, which obviously would be to our advantage to do. But we understand that these decisions are challenging. But I think it's a matter of, we could also have brought you at every numerical differential in each cent, basically, or cent and a half. That's a lot of information to process. So there is such a thing as too much.
So, anybody on this end? Anybody?
My last question is, if we need, in order for us to get exactly where we will be, where we need to be, what do we need to do? Because you were saying it will not actually place us exactly where we need to be. It will help out quite a bit. But actually, what numbers, in order also include the multi-purpose building, for us to get exactly what we need to do in order to make that happen?
So one additional assessment is another $123,000. $127,000. Where every 1 cent change the rate is going to be
Would that bring you up to where you saying that this is where we need to be at that time? And that, would they include the multi-purpose building?
So we were 1.2 million in the hole from last year. We were saying this is gonna bring in right at 900,000, 894,000 at our recommendation. So if you wanted to get to the 1.2 million, which would be basically the break even from last year, you would have to add 2 more. So it would be 42.
Keep in mind 42, that gets us out of the hole. What that doesn't do is add anything, basically. So people, hard purchases. We've needed people for a while, but I think we're all realistic in that we can't do it necessarily all in one fell swoop. It would be great if we could.
I would like to see a draft budget.
So that's what we're talking about, right?
That's my thing. There's nobody else talking but me. I'll make the motion that we instruct staff to prepare a draft budget using what do y'all want with the tax rate? That's the thing.
I would think the staff proposed 40%, because, I mean, they're the professionals in the
40%
area.
all right with everybody?
Yes.
This is draft now.
Yeah.
That's what we're gonna do.
This is the normal process.
And
You
before,
always receive a draft.
part of the discussion, one thing to consider, that's a good starting point. So if we get our a recommendation rolled out to council, and we're like, hey, wait, I wanted more in the multipurpose center, or I wanted more in streets, or I wanted more in recreation, whatever those areas are that y'all feel like may not get the attention it needs with funding, we still have some time, and so, but this is gonna give us a good base. This is gonna
Starting
give us a good
point.
starting point.
Right.
Absolutely.
Okay, so it's with the recommended, tax rate you all gave, which is 40
40%.
cents. Okay,
And
that's
sewer.
it, right?
And sewer increase.
So,
And sewer increase.
Yes, and the
That's- I'm so
$7 sewer increase proposed by staff.
Got a motion, do I have a second?
I have a second.
I have a motion on the floor and a second. Motion made by Councilwoman Robinson, second by Councilwoman Smith, and now I have a question by Councilwoman Hawkins.
Mayor, my question is the motion that is being made, is that draft budget going to include particulars in terms of the multipurpose center or not? Is that motion a draft budget? And then once we look at the budget, seeing if that's to be included, or would that be included? That's my question.
Let me make sure I'm clear. So Ms. Robinson's budget motion is to utilize the 40% that staff proposed, 40 cents. That 40 cents that the staff proposed, along with the $7 sewer budget,
To prepare for draft.
to prepare a draft budget. And in that draft budget, you will see, Anthony, correct? we would see stuff for multipurpose or not.
My understanding from,
Right.
I didn't need the motion, but if you'd like to make it, I'm certainly happy to take it.
You can amend her motion.
Yes.
I
To-
would accept that amendment.
Right, you can amend her motion to include that, what I'm saying.
That's fine with me.
Absolutely.
That's fine.
Right, so you're
Because I
gonna,
want to see the building built too.
so you want to amend that it includes
Funds
incentives for,
Yes.
Capital
for,
Reserve Fund.
capital, what you said?
Capital Reserve Fund.
Capital reserve, right, capital reserve for the
Capital-
multipurpose center. So
That's fine with me.
she's gonna amend the motion, you're gonna amend the motion to include the capital reserve for the multipurpose center. And you accept,
I'll
Wait,
second.
wait,
Yes.
wait, wait, wait.
Oh, I'm
Sorry.
sorry, yeah.
So I'd like to make an amendment to the motion presented by Councilwoman Robertson for the draft budget, but to include the capital
Incentives,
incentives,
reserve, capital,
which to include the capital reserve, to include incentives for multipurpose center.
now going back to Ms. Robinson first, you agree,
I
and
accept.
Lisa, do you second that?
Yes.
Okay, all right. All right, now I call for the vote, okay? Is that correct? All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried.
So just a point of clarification, so when we set up the capital reserve, currently it will just be a lump sum. So there won't, particulars will be coming down the way, but just, that'll come after the studies are done and you all decide what you want. But currently it'll be a matter of trying to find a lump sum of money to put in that capital.
And that capital reserve, is it like monies that can be used for planning?
I think it's
Just
usually
for
just capital.
The capital,
So it won't be able to be used until we start with the groundbreaking and all that?
right, it would be used for the building itself.
For the building
Building
itself.
itself.
Fixed
And it
assets.
can't be used for anything else.
Right.
I'll verify that just to make sure, but normally the capital,
You got to play, well, we know that. We've got to plan the building, and we've got to have the citizen input and all that, you know.
But that's
for-
already budgeted for
Sorry.
in this current year
Okay.
and will happen in the plans that you all award for Parks and Recreation.
Okay, then. Okay.
All right, thank you all on that part of it.
Okay,
And next is the
we have two
T-
items.
TA,
No, not yet.
oh, not yet, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I'm John.
Mayor.
Go ahead.
I'll keep talking.
You go ahead, I'm sorry.
So we have two items, they're budget related, that we would ask and need your votes on. The first one is a Parks and Rec issue that you all are aware.
Right.
I sent out an email and you all gave consensus to allow the mayor to sign the application that we put forward for the Accessible Parks Grant Program. We just need to follow that up with an official vote. This program is a $1 of local funds for every $5 in grant funds. So if we were to receive, Diane, go right ahead. I'm talking.
Well, I just want to say thank you for the support for Parks and Recreation. This is a great opportunity for our department to apply for this grant. So you should have a small packet, basically just an explanation of the max amount that we can apply for, and basically it's for a $1 of local funds for every $5 in grant funds. With this will be an opportunity to take our park. Right now, we picked the Winterville Rec Park to make sure it is ADA accessible. So if you look at the packet, 'cause I'm more of a picture person, you can see there's different areas that are not accessible. So for one thing, this opportunity, we can improve our facility, but then also add to it. So one of the pictures we have is the crosswalk, if you're familiar with where the tennis court is, crossing over to where the playground is. One thing that I notice is the sidewalk's broken, but not just that. There's been several times to where if parents are walking across the street to the playground, their child is coming right back behind them. There's a short curve basically that if a driver's not paying attention, that could easily be wrecked. So that's one thing is what we want to do is a crosswalk improvement striping from the tennis court to the playground. Another one you have where it says accessible game viewing shelter. The area where if you're at opening day ceremonies, you'll see that there's some picnic shelters or picnic tables and some benches. But then right in the middle is basically your mulch area. With this, what we would like to do is make it a concrete slab and either put some type of shelter or even a shade sail, so you'll still have shade during the ball games or the Easter extravaganza or any other special events. But this gives opportunity for more families in case if there is somebody in a wheelchair or even strollers to have more seating and being able to watch special events at the field. One of the biggest things is we currently have 4 dugouts that are not ADA accessible, so we would like to update those. And I think Councilman Moy, we had talked briefly that day at opening ceremonies. We had looked at the gates and noticing that the easiest way for you to access the dugouts is at left field or right field. So with this would be we would be able to have access right there at the dugouts and make sure that they are ADA. And this, one thing that we had noticed was excuse me, my voice. We had a tournament one weekend, and there is an umpire in a wheelchair. He, was able to get on the Kiwanis field because our dugouts were ADA for that one. So these are just a few, projects that we would like to do. Also, have some handicap bleachers, so that way there's more seating for everybody.
Okay, can we get a motion on this, please?
I got a question.
Okay. Yes, sir.
I think I sent a question pertaining to, I see that the request is made at the Winterville Park. And my question was, could we do a small upgrade also to Hillcrest for accessory, ADA accessory?
So the grant right now would just be specifically for the one park. So I know at Hillcrest, the playground is already ADA with the walking track. But if there is suggestions to add different areas that could be ADA at Hillcrest, we can always look for additional grants. So that way we can make improvements specifically for Hillcrest.
Well, we do have small kids that really, they comes out to the equipment that we have at Hillcrest, and they are handicapped. And so that's the reason why I asked that is not only at the playground, but even around the picnic area. Once come and reunion or any kind of gathering, there is someone that needs some assistance or some kind of handicap ability that needs to be able to get from safe to the picnic area, or a child be able to get to the playground. And that's the reason why I asked that. Also, we do have a baseball field out there, potential one. Has been in the making. It can be used as a practice field, and so that means that we have families want to bring their small kids out there to see their loved ones to play ball or practice. And we need some means for handicap accessory for there. So yes, at Hillcrest there is a need. There is a great need.
I thought I understood that the program would not let you split
That is correct. So it'd only be
locations.
Yep. So that would be something that, like, next year we could look at applying for Hillcrest. If we apply for the rec, because Hillcrest, I know you mentioned that, there's little kids that go and play baseball, playground. 'Cause My son actually is playing T-ball, and so we do play out there, practice out there. We have the playground out there. We've actually seen, children actually go at the ADA swing. So they do go out there and get on the swing. With, thankfully with the new playground that, was, I think, renovated in 2019, that is ADA. So that helps a lot, but we can definitely look at different options at Hillcrest.
And you said that they only allow you to apply for only one park
Yes, sir.
At a time.
At a time.
at a time.
I'd like to move that we approve for staff to apply for the Accessible for Parks grant.
Councilwoman Smith, would you also add to your motion, if you don't mind, and to authorize the mayor to sign said application? Thank you.
And to authorize the mayor to sign said application.
I'll second the motion.
Got a motion by Councilwoman Smith, and a second by Councilwoman Robinson, to have, Parks and Rec to apply for the Accessibility Parks Grant Program, and to have the mayor to sign also.
Mayor, if I can.
I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am.
Mayor, I would like to, Mayor and Town Council, I would like to also add on to what Councilman Moy said, but in terms of crosswalks, and I know we have a program for safety streets or safe streets, in terms of crosswalks over at the Hillcrest Park, the street leading into the park, there's lots of youth and children walking to the park. Just keeping that in mind as we move forward, considering crosswalks, a crosswalk in that area. And then also a shelter, because there is no shelter, other than the shelter for whenever you're having an event, in terms of the sports, the basketball, if it's inclement weather, it's difficult for the youth or our ages to go out and play and involve themselves in that sport. Just keeping that in mind while the discussion was and prior to the motion, I think that that's important. In terms of the grant, what I hear is that you can apply for the grant once per year. Am I correct? Okay. Thank you. I just wanted to add that.
So the motion is in play. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. Thank you.
And I believe our last item of the evening, Anthony Bowers is going to wrap us up.
Good evening again. Tonight you have before you, which we've already discussed in some regards, the tentative order contract to TA Lovin. This is for the 2020 pump station rehabilitation project, and yes, I did not stutter. It is a 2020 rehabilitation pump station project. That's how long we have been working to get this off the ground. It's changed over time, and so we are now looking at a very critical situation with two of our pump stations, most dire one being Chapman Street, relocation of that pump station, getting that in a much more better condition. So tonight we have before you a resolution that needs to be approved by the council. It's required by the local government commission. We recently had a bid opening on April 11th. We only received one bid for the project. So with any formal project, we had to give some time and give another opportunity for others to bid to receive another proposal. We had a second opening on April 30th. At that point in time, we did receive a second bid. In your packet, you'll see that there is a bid tabulation. And basically, there were two companies that bid, TA Lovin bid $7,628,500, and Hendricks Barnhill bid $8,425,245. With that being said, we originally, as we mentioned earlier, had acquired roughly $5 million from NCDEQ State Revolving Fund to finance the project. We received a $500,000 debt forgiveness, which is basically a grant. They just wouldn't call it that. I'm not sure the purpose or reason for that, but it is 0% interest. So we got
We'll take
lucky.
it.
Got lucky in one regard in that a lot of people turned money back in. This much money was not available initially. So when the ARPA funds came down from the federal government, they turned the state revolving fund money back over to the state, which made it so that we could cover the difference in what this project is going to cost. And so these are, again, the two main pump stations that basically extract sewer from the town. We have one on the east side of town over on Reedy Branch, and we'll have one on the south side of town on Church Street. Again, there's 4 lift stations that have control panels that are corroded and deteriorating. They need to be reviewed as well. And there is opportunity to go into a cost engineering process with the engineering firm to see if there's ways to reduce the cost in negotiation with TA Lovin, which is the low bid. They are a responsible bidder, and this is part of the process for the local government commission to get on their agenda so that we can be approved for the funds. As you know, or you may or may not know, the local government commission is what regulates lending for municipalities in North Carolina. They have very strict standards. It's a very good thing that they do. North Carolina has one of the highest bond ratings of any state in the country, and it's because of the work of the local government commission. And so while it's a lot of red tape and a lot of extra work for municipalities, the actions and things that they do really protect the municipalities in North Carolina and keep them from getting in trouble.
Anthony, this would be one of the times we want to say LGC.
Right.
Yes,
This-
yes.
yes, we need their favor at this
That's
point
right,
in time.
that's right,
That's right.
So,
Yeah, we need it this time.
that's right.
that's right. So we're looking at, $7.6 million contract with TA Lovin. And stand by for any, one other thing, the debt service payment on this is a 20-year note. It is interest-free. And the monthly cost per customer will roughly be $7.21. Now, that'll be several years from now before that chicken comes home to roost, so to speak. But, it's not something that debt service payment won't come, the project's gonna be right at over 2 years. And then from that, it'll be after that before debt service payment. Stand by for any questions.
Anybody have any questions? If none, I entertain a motion to accept the resolution for awarding the contract to TA Lovin. That's correct.
So moved.
All right.
Second.
Got a motion made by Councilwoman Robinson, second by Councilwoman Smith. Any questions?
Yes, Mr. Fowler, do you have any concerns about which of these companies would be your preference? Or it doesn't matter. Both of them is pretty good.
Both of them are very stout, very strong reputation, solid companies. Every company's gonna have some problems if you dig deep enough, especially when you get to projects of this magnitude. Nobody's gonna be 100%. However, both of these have very good reputations, well known within the industry.
TA Lovin has done a substantial amount of work at CMSD.
Y'all been very pleased with it. And I am definitely aware of,
We had some things we had to work through, but we worked through them, so I always consider that a plus.
If there's no other discussion, all in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. Thank you, Anthony.
Thank you.
Hey, a side note first, I want to ask this question. What is our bond rating? Our bond rating?
So Winterville is kind of in a unique position. We actually haven't had bonds in a very long time. We had some general geo bonds issued when I first got here. And we used a long time ago, it's defunct now, it doesn't even exist, but it was a bonding, basically a bonding company. We had an A+ back then, that was over 20-some years ago. Since then, we haven't issued any bonds, so we haven't been evaluated for bond rating. Very expensive to go through bond counsel, and that process is quite cumbersome. Most of our projects we've been able to fund through installment purchase or purchase agreements, and so that allows us to reduce the cost and not have to get votes or take it to citizens for their bond vote.
Used to, at least installment purchase wasn't an option.
Okay.
So now that it is, it's much.
Okay. Well, thank you for that.
But that's where LGC kind of acts on behalf of, whereas a general obligation bond, citizens would have to vote on it. LGC kind of steps in and acts as that, role to make sure that it's something that the citizens, is good for the citizens.
Okay, all right, thank you. Yeah, Tom,
Just one last surprise. This is a good one, and I'm going to ask Interim Chief Williams to step forward. He has something he would like to present.
So, since I got appointed interim chief, a couple of things I've always said is 12,000 of us can watch the town better than 30 of my guys. And I still wholeheartedly agree in that. And I've always said if you see something, say something. Well, last week I was at my desk, I received a text message with photos. Now, I don't suggest you go around taking pictures of people while they're driving around. You never know what they're up to. So this person sent me a bunch of pictures, license plate, guy behind the wheel, everything. So I happen to, the person that texted me did not like the look of it. So I looked him up, come to find out he's a sex offender, he's on probation, riding around the neighborhood. I made contact with that person's probation officer. He was not even supposed to be out of his county, which was 45 miles from him. So we were able to work with his probation officer, and I don't think we'll see him anymore. But it was due to a citizen's action, good thinking, and so the certificate of appreciation reads as such. Winterville Police Department Certificate of Appreciation in recognition of Donald Harvey for your diligence in maintaining the safety of the town and your neighborhood. Your awareness and quick thinking led to the detection of possible crime afoot. See something, say something. Thank you.
Yay!
Great job.
Absolutely.
Community policing, Don.
Excellent.
Excellent. We appreciate that. Great job, Interim Chief Williams. We'd like to see more of that. Excellent.
Okay, I'm done.
All right. If there's no other, I'll call for a motion to,
Mayor,
yep.
now, didn't we decide we were?
I think so.
Yeah,
I
right.
think so, yes.
Right.
Thank you, Don. Don will keep us straight. Right.
No. Right. Yeah. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded.
Got a motion to adjourn by Councilwoman Smith, second by Councilwoman Robinson. Any discussion? None. Please vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Nobody gonna vote.
Me, no.
Get it done.
Where you going, John?
You up and out. I can't go, I go 2 hours, this my max. Yeah.
I make sure to go before.